It's time, so we would like to start now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to T Chang International first session in 2023. We started this T Chang series since April 2022 to learn about startup from different countries, and this is the second year. Today, we learn about South Africa and South African startup CubeSpace. Japan is a little bit far from South Africa. And this is the first time we have a guest from African continent, so we are pretty much excited. My name is Sawako from Tongari office at Nagoya University, and today's MC is Zuba-san, second year Graduate School of International Development at Nagoya University. Please start.
Thanks a lot, Sarika. It's a great pleasure to be here. So today, I was just introduce my country, South Africa. So South Africa is the country that is located in the bottom part of the continent. And then it is known for quite a number of things, including your safaris, your mining, your wine, Boulders Beach, and then with the history of shaping South African, I would say country of which it was a particular point in time. And then especially when it comes to mining, South Africa is among the exporters of diamond, gold, uranium, and then other mineral resources. So the list goes long and long and long. And then over and above that, South Africa is known for its finest wines, of which it exports to the rest of the world. And then people they seem to enjoy South African wine, in the main. Thank you. Okay, and also the thing that is so South Africa to be unique among other African countries is that South Africa is known as being a home of Big Five. So as you can see, we have your lion, your elephant, your cheetah, buffalo, and rhino. And then when it comes to our game reserves, we happen to have among the biggest game reserve your Kruger National Park, where you see all these beautiful animals roaming freely and then enjoying themselves there. Okay, and then when it comes to the cities and locations, so South Africa is known for having three capital cities, of which one is located in Pretoria, the other one in Bloemfontein, and then the other one in Cape Town. As you can see, the layouts, we have beautiful beaches, we have mountains, beautiful waterfalls, and quite a number of things that you can enjoy if you happen to visit South Africa whenever you have time. Yes, and then when it comes to startup companies, so South Africa is known for having quite a number of new fintech companies. And then if you know the guys Elon Musk, they were born in South Africa, and then they happen to make a lot of their fortune in the US. And then it's not only them, we have a lot of good entrepreneurs that are doing quite well in the space of fintech technology. As you can see on the graph, the fintech is on top of the graph there, and then followed by the e-commerce and retail tech, etc., etc. The list goes on and on. And then
Then
okay, and then so what I can say is that today we're having a guest. Our guest is from South Africa, and then his name is Mark. And then Mark is the co-founder and the CEO of CubeSpace, a company that is based in South Africa, that is doing quite a lot of good things in the country. And then also to ship the products to other countries and the world. And then good morning to you, Mike, and then good morning to all our viewers who are in South Africa, and good afternoon to all our viewers who decided to tune in here in Nagoya University, and then to the greater parts of Japan. Mike, it's a great pleasure to have you here. I can't wait to have a conversation with you so that you can elaborate and then tell us about your journey as the young CEO of South Africa for the company that has been doing quite well for the past couple of years. Mike, is over to you.
Thanks very much, Zuma.
and you mentioned about the question.
Okay. Yes.
Question.
Okay, and then when it comes to questions to our viewers, please feel free to raise your hand using the Zoom function, to raise your hand. And then if you have other reactions clapping hands, please make use of that function. but please do not hesitate from time to time to pose a question, and then like Mark will be pleased to answer you most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juman. Thanks, Sawako, and hello to everyone. I'm gonna keep my presentation relatively informally, and I'll try and keep it nice and slow and easy to understand. I thought about putting some Japanese translations into my presentation, but I really quickly realized that it's very difficult to translate English to Japanese. So I'll try and keep it slow and so that everyone can understand. I'm really thankful for the invitation to speak here with you guys. I'm gonna share a bit about our company, about our history, and a couple of lessons that I've had to learn. And I hope that can help you guys as you embark on your own entrepreneurial journeys. Yeah, and as Uma said, I'm very open to questions at any time. I don't. While I'm speaking, you can raise your hand. I would love to answer your questions. And then at the end, we can also answer questions. But sometimes when you hear something and you think something specifically and you want to ask the question immediately, it's better to ask it immediately and we can talk about it while it's still fresh in your mind. I'm going to share my presentation now. So that works easily. Can you guys see?
Not yet.
Not yet, Mike.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. We have.
my Zoom gave me an error message. I'm just going to stop sharing and then reshare.
But we can see now.
Yeah, but my Zoom is giving me a pop-up. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, it's good now.
Right. So yeah, my full name is Mike Alec Kearney, but I go by Mike. So I'm the CEO of a company called CubeSpace. So CubeSpace was a spin-out company from a university in South Africa called Stellenbosch University. So there was loads of research done at the university over many years. I studied electronic engineering, and then I did a master's degree in control systems in electronic engineering at the university. And then I did another master's degree in mechanical engineering as well at Stellenbosch University. And then we started the company. We took research and IP that was at the university and we turned it into a company. We made a spin-out company from the university. Now the title here is building a space company in South Africa and then the hard way. And I'm jokingly saying the hard way because we built this company without taking any funding. So no investment from any VCs or from any funds. We slowly made sales of the first products to get a bit of money, paid really small salaries to ourselves, worked very hard, and then slowly got a bit more money, hired another person, made more sales, and slowly organically grew the company. So people usually refer to bootstrapping a company. It's so meaning to start a company and grow the company without taking any funding. And doing it that way allows you a lot of freedom because you don't have shareholders that are influencing your decision making and getting involved in the company, but it also poses a lot of challenges because it's more difficult to grow. It's more difficult to grow your facility and grow your team, etc. I see there's a question about a recording.
Yeah, we're gonna share the archive.
Okay, so you can
Yes.
you're very welcome to record. I don't mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's go through the slideshow. So I'm going to first give some context on our company and our product, and then some history, and then some lessons learned. So we are a space company, aerospace company, CubeSpace, and we build specifically the control system for satellites. So a satellite consists of a payload, a camera, or whatever the payload of the satellite is, the ADCS, which is the control system which we build, a computer, a communication device to speak to the Earth, and then a power supply and solar panels to generate electricity from the sun in space. Now we focus specifically on one part of the satellite, the ADCS, the control system. And we focus on specifically control systems for small satellites. So in the range of sizes of satellite, you're at the top, you've got picosatellites, nanosatellites, microsatellite, and then small, medium satellites. We are focusing on this nanosatellites and microsatellites, these middle two. So from 1 to about 100 kilogram satellites is the size that we are focusing on. So the industry changed significantly over the last many years. Many years ago, the satellite industry was, they built very large satellites. So a satellite the size of a school bus. And it was expensive and slow. But with satellites getting smaller, the strategy was to launch. It's cheaper to build them, it's cheaper to launch them. So instead of launching only one, you launch a constellation of satellites. So it's like the Starlink constellation that Elon Musk built. There's many satellites orbiting around the Earth in a network, and that provides you better coverage of the Earth at any given time. So for that reason, with these smaller satellites, the strategy on building satellites have changed significantly. The number of satellites being built every year is significantly higher. The costs must come down. So the industry is being kind of industrialized, where in the past it was a small amount of people, very specialized. Now it is becoming a bit more commercial and open with larger volumes. So the challenge there is, of course, building to a space quality with the requirements of satellites, which is very high requirements, but in large volumes. So that's what we're really focusing on, is expanding our facility to be able to do these large volumes. This just gives you an idea of the growth in amount of satellite launches by year. So you'll see here, there's this exponential growth of the amount of satellites that's being launched. So this was a graph generated in 2021. This was the prediction for 2022, but if you look at more up-to-date graphs, it actually then far exceeded the 2021 graph. So this thing is exponentially growing. So just to visually kind of explain what our satellite does, if you have the Earth and you have, let's call it your neighbor, and you want to be able to take a picture of your neighbor from space, if your satellite is pointing in a certain direction, so the satellite's floating there around the Earth or orbiting the Earth, and let's say it's pointing in the direction of the blue arrow, our system has sensors that looks at, it's a small camera that looks at where the sun is, which is the yellow dot here. A different sensor that looks at where the Earth, the edge of the Earth is, and then a different sensor that looks at where looks at the stars and the patterns of the stars. And from those three sensors, it can determine how the satellite is rotated in space. So when you're in space, there's no ground and a mountain that you can, kind of coordinate yourself towards. You're just floating in space. So you need to know where you are in space relative to the sun and the Earth, and then the stars in the global, like, inertial direction. So we built these sensors to use the sun, the Earth, and the stars to measure the orientation of the satellite. And then we want to actually rotate the satellite to point in a particular direction. So to rotate the satellite, we have reaction wheels. So it's small electrical motors with heavy discs on. And if you rotate the disc in one direction, the satellite rotates in the other direction. And the other way of rotating a satellite is we have magnet torquers. So what these are, they're small electromagnets. So we have 3 of them. If we put current through them, they generate a small magnetic field. And the Earth has a magnetic field. And if you have 2 magnets and you bring 2 magnets next to each other, they push each other and they kind of rotate each other. So to rotate the satellite, we generate our own magnetic field that interacts with the Earth's magnetic field. And then through that interaction, the satellite actually rotates. So we use the Earth's magnetic field to rotate the satellite. And then, so if we go back to that previous picture, the satellite was pointing that way. Our system then points it to your target, to what you want to point. So that control system is what we specialize in. So our products look, so we've got a computer, a space computer, and then we have sensors, so sun sensor, earth sensor, star tracker. We have these electromagnets to generate the magnetic field, and then we have different sizes of reaction wheels. And we put these systems together for customers into boxes that does the full control system of their satellite. And the reason why our business can exist is that this system is probably the most complex system in a satellite. The other systems in the satellite is more easy to understand. It's got lower complexity, but the control system, because of the fact that there's physics and mathematics and electronics and optics and everything combined into one product, it's an extremely complex product. And for that reason, people that are building satellites, especially young teams and universities and inexperienced teams that are building satellites, don't have the expertise to build control systems. So they outsource that to us. So we work with, I think, about 170 different universities at this point. So 170 different universities globally are building satellites, and they buy these systems from us. We also work with big commercial constellations. We work with NASA. So NASA buys many products from us. We've built some systems for the lunar rover that the UAE Space Agency is building. So that rover is going to drive on the moon later this year. It's on the way to the moon. So we built the system that drives the wheels of the rover and the main computer of the rover. We designed that built. So we've got some wide variety of customers all over the world. Big space agencies, commercial companies, but also a lot of universities.
Is this like your company is the only one who provides this system, or like I think how about the competitors?
There are very few. What typically happens is once you start, once a company that are building satellites starts getting really big and they want to grow quickly, they go and acquire, they buy out other companies that build parts of the satellite. And almost all of our competitors were bought by other bigger companies that are building satellites. So, and one of the other competitors, what they started doing is they grew to the point where they were not building control systems only, they started building satellites as well. Now, our customers are building satellites, right? And we're building only the control system. If we also start building satellites, we start competing with our own customers. And this is kind of what one of our competitors did. So our message to our customers is that we will never start building satellites. We're only doing control systems, and we're not for sale. And if we are, we won't sell to a specific company that are building satellites, but instead to some strategic partner that where we will be able to continue building control systems for everyone in the industry. I see there's a question.
Yes. There is a question from Zugi Swan. So Zugi, you may go ahead, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much. This is really interesting for me. It's far from my field, but you've mentioned the uniqueness of the product that you're offering. But you've also mentioned the competitors that you're not the only ones that are offering this. I'm just curious as to if, for instance, yours is different from what the competitors are offering, do you have any rights to it? You know, any, are you right? Is it rights protected or such that nobody else can replicate what you're doing?
No, it's a very good question. So we actually have no patents. You know, it's not protected anyway. Of course, our information is confidential and is our intellectual property, but ultimately other people can also do this. Now, so I think my language might have been wrong. Our product is not that unique in the sense that it's no one knows how to do it. The technology or the science behind what our products do is published in papers. There's no like IP or patents or anything behind it. But what it is it's complex. It's really complex to build. You have to integrate electronic skills and mechanical skills, software skills, mathematics, complex modeling, control systems, everything into one product. And then you have to manufacture these products to space standards. So to be able to build these products, you need a team of people ranging from technicians to highly skilled electronic design, mechanical design, software design, and then you need control system specialists that specialize in space control systems. So it's a very unique team of people that you require, and a unique facility, and then a unique manufacturing environment around that. So to be able to build these products is very difficult. It's very complex. It's not a simple thing to build. And for that reason, it's very difficult for others to compete with us. So if someone else were to have the design files that we use to make our PC boards, for instance, and some of the software that we have, they can go and build the stuff that we're building, but they won't be able to compete with us because it's the experience that we have, the knowledge that we have for putting these systems together for our customers is something that is very difficult to gain. The other thing is when it comes to space products, when you're building a satellite that's very expensive to build and you're launching it into space, once your satellite is in space, you can't fix it, right? You can't send someone to go fix a satellite. If it breaks, it's gone. So if any one part of the satellite breaks, the whole satellite is gone. So you lose everything. So our customers typically are very risk averse. They want to make sure that every part in the satellite is very robust and works very well. So to our customers, experience of having satellites in space is a requirement. They will only buy from a supplier that have launched many satellites into space. So where we are now, we're one of the companies that have launched the most control systems into space. So we have the most experience. And we're also selling the most of these systems. So we're gaining new experience quicker than anyone else. So if someone else were to start now, the amount of experience that they have in space would be very low and we would be very high. And we're growing quicker than them. So the experience that we have is just so much more than any new company would have. And that to a certain extent is you call it your moat of your company, right? The water around your castle, the thing that protects enemies from getting into your castle. That's our moat that protects the business, is the fact that we have this experience of many systems in space. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does answer it, but I'm probably getting into deep into your business and model. I'm just concerned though that if the complexity of this process of if there's nothing that is put in place in order to protect this complex process, and I mean you sound very confident that you are so experienced. You know, what happens? Is there anything in place if any one of your team members decides to branch out? and decides to go on their own, because they equally have the same kind of experience that you boast about. But nonetheless, these are just my my thoughts, but you have answered my question. I'm just concerned about of course, you said it's not unique, but your process is quite complex, and I understand that you can patent the process as well. And I wonder if you've got any other protection, probably against your team, not against your team members per se, but you boast about your experience, but your team members have equal experience. And anyone, we've seen it happen in history and businesses that one of the team members decides to branch out and does something similar. So I'm just concerned about such controls.
No, absolutely. I think it's a very valid question. So when you say I boast about the experience, I'm boasting about the experience of the company, right? The company has a collective understanding and a collective skill in building what they're building. Any one person in this company has specialization in their particular field. So there are many electronic engineers out there. There are many control system engineers out there. There are many people with space experience. But putting together this group of people together in this facility with this experience, and importantly, that's why I'm saying one of the biggest assets that we have, our asset is not a patent or a design. Our asset is our brand. It's our brand and our experience. If anyone knew, so there's a lot of startups starting all over the globe. So there are many people starting new space companies all the time. People with similar understanding of the physics, similar understanding of business, they are starting space companies, but it is extremely difficult for them to compete because we have a lot of flight heritage. And when I say experience, I actually mean flight heritage. We have a certain amount of systems in space already working in space. And in the space industry, what makes it unique relative to other business is in other businesses, you can build a product and you can test it very well and you can get to a mature product very quickly, right? In space, you can't test your product. The only way you can actually test your product is for a customer to buy it, put it on their expensive satellite and launch it into space. And once it's in space in a very weird, unique environment, only then can you learn lessons and mature your product. So it's very difficult to build a new company and build a new product and then mature that product if you don't have access to launches into space. And your only access to launches into space is through customers buying your product. But customers won't buy a product that hasn't been to space. So that's kind of what I'm saying. One of the big barriers to entry for competitors to us is our experience and our network of customers that are already using our product. And the amount of new launches that we have yearly, we're launching hundreds of these systems into space yearly. So we're maturing our product extremely quickly and doing research in space extremely quickly because we have access to space. Whereas new companies won't, customers will not buy their system because it hasn't been to space and it's not mature yet. And they can't mature their system before they get launches to space. So that's what that's why the exact how we do it isn't that important. It's more about the brand and about the system that we have set up. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Thank you so much for entertaining my business question. I understand it's supposed to be a technical presentation. Thank you so much.
No, not at all. I mean, the goal of this is ultimately to get to entrepreneurship and to business, right? So I'm starting a bit technically to just give you some background, but I mean, this is an excellent question. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So yeah, origin of our technology. So there were satellites built in Stellenbosch way back in like 90s and stuff. These were big satellites. There was a lot of know-how and experience generated at the university. A lot of people trained. And there was a lot of research in small control systems. We then took all of that research and turned it into a product. So our first business deal was with QB50. So this was like a global satellite, collaborative satellite project. And we didn't get much money, but we did it through the university, had this partnership with them, and we had to build these control systems. We've never done it before. We didn't have any experience, and this was where we got that opportunity to get things to space, was through this project. So we worked extremely hard, and we made these first 5 systems for this project, and then people came back to buy more of them, and they came back with very weird orders. So we had one Asian customer that wanted a black version of our wheels that went to the moon. So relatively early on, we had products orbiting the moon already. We had a customer requesting this very weird configuration of control system that we see below here. We called it WALL-E. I don't know if you remember the movie WALL-E. So, you know, we were making bits of money from these particular customers coming in with particular requests. It wasn't sustainable because it required a lot of research and customization per customer. So it was expensive for us, but we took any order we could get to get some money and to slowly grow the company. So from these little bits of orders here and there, we could start hiring people. We actually then also built a satellite for this constellation, and this satellite gave us the opportunity to fly our stuff in space and then learn a bit of lessons, just a couple of lessons on how to improve it. So this gave us a bit of experience. So we've learned about satellites, we learned about control systems. So we decided, let's start a business. So CubeSpace was born. It was just in a small office in a corner in an incubator. So we went into an incubator center next to Stellenbosch University. We weren't part of the incubation program there, but we were in that environment and we got an office there. So we spun out, we didn't have any money, and we didn't really have any experience with building a business, right? So we were engineers. I was an electronic and mechanical engineer by training, and now I'm CEO of this company. So I had to figure it out. So I always joke, like this guy at the bottom here, I went to conferences as a university student, and then basically sold my space products from my jacket at the lunch table, right? We didn't have a booth yet. So I went at lunch, I sat next, you know, while we were having lunch, people at the space conference would be walking around and I would kind of ask them, oh, by the way, do you need a control system? And we slowly made more sales and then grew the company. But I had to register a company. I had to open a bank account. We had to obviously have a big discussion with the university over the IP of those first designs, and shareholding in the company, and the memorandum of incorporation of the company, and accommodating the university's needs. Between the founders, we needed to kind of fight and determine who gets what shareholding, and determine what is fair, what shareholding is fair for which person. We had to get business cards and build a website and start marketing our product. And yeah, so we just had to figure it out, right? And then figure out how to build these things in a sustainable way so that we can sell them. I see there's a question.
Yes, Mark, there is a question from Sanele Zoma. If you can please, Sanele, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to find out, in terms of, okay, firstly, wonderful product that you've got in here. If you were to venture into this, in terms of registering the IP and securing it, how difficult that process is for someone who's just a startup?
Yeah, registering in terms of patenting IP, there is many discussions and debates about how useful that really is, right? And you also can't patent something that's publicly available. So our specific design of our electronic boards you can patent, but it wouldn't make sense. The technology behind it is already published in research papers and all that kind of stuff. Also, when you register a patent, you have to expose the design, right? many of the biggest successful companies in the world have no patents. Tesla and SpaceX have no patents, 0. They haven't registered any of their IP because it's not your firstly, when you register your IP, you need to expose it to everyone. Everyone can see it. Keeping it secret, keeping it complex, keeping it within the company is a lot better strategy. There is a place for patents, and that is where you have a very innovative, unique, different idea that's never been thought of that you need to protect. And it's very particular cases where that is actually true. Most innovators, when they design something new, of course, they feel like the thing that they designed is very unique and it's life-changing and world-changing. Very often it's not that unique, and very often someone else has done something very similar. So a patented idea or patented technology doesn't make you a successful business. A successful business is bringing all of that together, managing the people, hiring a good team, putting a good facility in place, putting good processes in place, doing good marketing, building a good brand. Those are the important things. The technology is one part of a business. In terms of the complexities of going through the process of registering IP, I only have experience with working with the Stellenbosch University IP tech transfer office and seeing the processes they go through, but I haven't gone through it myself because I've never registered any IP. So I can't really comment on how complex or difficult it is, but what I can comment on is it's very rarely the right way to go to try and license technology.
Okay.
No,
Especially in the beginning phases of a business, because it's expensive doing taking out a patent. And you can take out a patent on a specific piece of technology because it's interesting and innovative, but that doesn't mean there's actually a market for it and people will actually pay their money for it, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship, that first phase is finding product market fit. It's getting out of the building, putting your product that you've built into people's hands, seeing if they actually like it as much as you like it, seeing if they also think it's a clever product, not just you thinking it's a clever product. And then even if they really want that product, seeing if they're actually willing to pay their hard-earned money to pay for your thing. Only then, I think, would it start making sense spending money on investing in securing your IP or your patents. Does that answer it? Not quite, but it's the best I can answer it, unfortunately.
No, it was quite well put up, and you've put some more insight really that sometimes it might not be worth it. Thanks a lot, really.
Thanks, Anele. Thanks for the question.
Oh, sorry, Mark. Just a quick question. Tell me about the space industry. Is it heavily regulated?
It is relatively regulated. The complexity of the regulation in the space industry is that it's international, and that space isn't owned by any particular country, right? So there are issues about, for instance, space junk and littering space and those type of things, but it's very difficult to enforce that any particular country follow a particular rule. So the UN has some guidelines for what countries must follow, but it's ultimately up to each country to enforce it locally. So it is very difficult to regulate and to control countries in terms of what they launch to space. In terms of doing business for us, the regulatory red tape is things like export control, because space, satellites are still classified as military to a large extent. The type of satellites that we're building is not, but the fact that you're building something that's very robust and that can survive a rocket launch means that you're building very hard, robust electronics that can typically also be used on missiles, right? So on military missiles, you need to build very hardcore, robust electronics. So the electronics that's built for satellites can be used on missiles as well to certain extents. So for that reason, satellites are also controlled. So if we want to export anything from South Africa to any country, we first have to get an export permit. We have to verify who the end user is, what they're going to use the product for, and confirm that it's not for military use. So that's the only regulatory part that's quite difficult, is that the fact that it's, satellites typically fall under the military and dual use category.
Okay, no, thank you so much.
So yeah, when we started out, we had this tiny office, a very small clean room where we had to build our things. So obviously things going to space needs to be built in a clean room where there's filtration and clean air, and you need to gown up and not get any hairs on the products or dust on the products. But it was small and unorganized. They broke into our office in the early days. In this picture at the top, you can see they came in through the window and like stole a whole lot of things. It was very chaotic. Our booths at conferences were these tiny booths you can see on the right. It was still very basic, very technical, not well put together, but we could now have our own booth and sell our products, not me standing at a lunch table, but actually having a booth at a conference. Then we started getting more orders, so we needed to produce more. So we started a bit more of a production line to build our systems. And then we started upgrading. So this is one of our later booths. You can see at a conference, we had a big double booth. Yeah, now it's a professional product, and we could really start scaling up. Then we needed a new facility. So we went to Stellenbosch University. They had this big warehouse. So on the left is the warehouse. We kind of planned what we want to do. We're going to punch holes in the walls, and we're going to change the facility, and they gave us approval. So we then started building our own facility. And this is what it is to be an entrepreneur, right? We were putting in floors ourselves. We were painting the walls ourselves. We were working on solving whatever problem there is to solve. We solved ourselves. We paid per floor area, per square meter of the floor was what we needed to pay the university. So we decided, well, let's put in a steel structure and put in a second story. Then we have double the floor space for the same money. So we had to make plans to grow, and because we had very little money still, right? We were still growing. And this is the facility now. So we have about 500 square meter of production facility, clean rooms, dark optics rooms, big canteen. Everyone at the company eats together every day at 12. So everyone gets free lunch. If you work at the company, you get free lunch. So we have a coffee shop next door that makes lunch, or we go get pizzas, or we go buy groceries and people make their own sandwiches or whatever. But every day at 12, we come together and we eat. We're about 42 people now. And yeah, the culture in the company is incredible. So lessons learned. This bit is a bit more informal. I just made a couple of text slides here, but it's stuff that I've learned that I can share with you guys. So as I said there, you get your hands dirty. People have asked me oftentimes, what's the job of a CEO? My best description of the job of a CEO is your job is anything that's not someone else's job. So in the beginning of the company where you're only 3 people, your job is everything. You do whatever needs to be done to grow the business and to be successful. Then you get a COO, or you get an admin person, or you get a finance person, and then they take that bit, but everything else is still your job. If there's a finance issue that doesn't fall within the expertise of your finance person, and even they can't solve it, it's your job. So whatever is not anyone else's job in your company is your job. If you're the CEO, you're the ultimate one responsible for making the machine work. So a CEO's job is very dynamic when you're in a startup. It starts with very basic things. It gets very complicated. But the important thing is you need to understand the entire business, and you need to be able to help out wherever. Now, it doesn't mean you need to be an expert in everything, but you need to be able to solve any problem. And to solve a particular problem can mean you get in help, or you hire someone, or you outsource it. but it's still ultimately your responsibility to make sure that that problem is solved in the end. The second point I wanted to make here is that the culture in your team is as important as your product. So perhaps even more important. When you're 3 people or 5 people in the beginning and everyone is extremely motivated to be successful, it's easy to keep everyone aligned because those 3 or 5 people are all passionate about the product. They all understand the product. So they're all automatically aligned. Once the team starts growing and you're hiring in new people, and especially when you grow fast, you need to keep everyone aligned with the interests and the goals of the company. And to do that is extremely difficult. In the beginning, when we just started out in the incubator, one of the consultants there at the incubator came to us trying to basically talk to us about culture and values and all of these kind of things. And in the beginning, I thought, like, what are you talking about? You know, we've got more important things to do. We need to build our products. We need to make sales and all these kind of things. I didn't have time to listen to this guy talk to me about like the value system of the company and the culture of the company and that kind of stuff. Those were the early days. And then as the company started growing, I started realizing how important those things are. And as a CEO, basically your job is culture. It's many other things, but keep making sure that the culture within your company is healthy is extremely important and is your job, is your responsibility. So making sure that the people in the company all understand the goals of the company, making sure they all understand the values of the company is extremely important. Third point, it's extremely difficult to have shareholders and co-founders work within the company as employees. It's difficult to put the different hats on, right? You put your hat on as shareholder and then you act as a shareholder, but then when you get back to work, you need to act as an employee. So in my case, I had shareholders that were also working as engineers in the company. But when they're in the company, they need to be an engineer, not a shareholder. And this is extremely difficult because they're invested in the company. They want to make sure the company is successful. They want to have inputs into the direction of the company, which is completely natural for them to want to do as a shareholder. But in a company, there's a certain structure that needs to be followed, and there are certain responsibilities. So it's an extremely difficult thing to manage, to have many shareholders and then shareholders working within the company. So if you have that type of case where you're 4 or 5 guys starting something together, you've got many shareholders, you need to be very aware of the complexities that will bring at a later stage. And you need to be ready for loads of conflict resolution between everyone to align and to make sure everyone is heard and everyone is understood. The next point I wanted to make there was that what might seem as a fair split in shareholding at the beginning of a spin-out may later not seem fair anymore. When you have some idea, you're in the university, you have some idea and you start some company, and between the founders, you decide on what the shareholding would be and you get going. Remember that shareholding can never change again. It is what it is. If you want to change it, you need to buy out other shareholders. But that initial shareholding that's given to all the founders is what it is. It's set in stone. And in the beginning, what might make sense for the shareholding split 3 or 5 years down the line, where some of those shareholders have left and done something else, or and maybe a small group of them stayed in the company and they're committed to the company and they're building the company, it might not seem fair anymore for those other guys to have shares. But the important thing to realize is that once it's set, and there's no use, even though it feels unfair, there's no use trying to change it. Make peace with the shareholding structure as it is, because you can't change it. Because if you keep fighting about or thinking about whether the shareholding is fair, you are going to be obsessed with it, and it is going to feel unfair, and you are going to be unhappy with it. You need to make sure that you're ready to accept the shareholding structure as it is once you get going, and then stop thinking about it and focus on the results of the company. Next point is it's easy to start focusing on the objectives that you want to achieve and lose sight of the fact that you have people around you with needs. The focus on the people around you is probably the single most important thing that I want to get across here to any young entrepreneur. Anyone that's starting a company, anyone that's involved in a spin out or a startup or whatever, you can be as clever as Albert Einstein, you can be as innovative as Elon Musk or whatever. If you want to be successful in the company, you need to be able to manage people. You need to be able to inspire people. You need to be able to guide them. You need to be able to care for them. You need to be able to get them to buy into what you want to be able to do, or what you want to achieve in the company. And if you're just focused on the product or on what you need to achieve, and you're not thinking about the people, it's not going to work. So the most important book I've read is this book, Leadership and Self-Deception. So I actually Googled a bit, and I found this, there is a Japanese version, translated version. So it's up here on the right. I would highly, highly recommend for anyone that wants to be an entrepreneur one day, you have to read this book. It's not about entrepreneurship. It's not about business, but it's about how to communicate efficiently with people and how to manage people, how to lead people. Most important thing. Next point I wanted to make here is that you'll make mistakes as a leader, you'll do things wrong, but you need to keep fighting to learn how to do things better. So constantly question yourself. You need to back yourself as a leader. You need to think about things, make a decision, and then stick by your decisions and push through and be confident and all those kind of things. But you also need to be able to question yourself and stand back and accept that you've made mistakes, and be willing to take inputs from other people. So I kind of make this comment here: be a sponge, not a rock. Don't everything external influence, other people's ideas. Don't just bounce it off you, absorb it into you, think about it, listen to it, and kind of learn from it. You can keep your opinion the same if you still believe it's the right thing, but listen, properly listen, and absorb the information that's coming from the people around you. And find the balance between trusting your own instincts and your own thoughts and listening to others' opinions. When you're a CEO of a company or entrepreneur, it's very easy to get lost in just driving something forward with confidence, because you need to be confident to make it, right? But it's easy to stop listening to the people around you. In the early stages of a company, good enough is good enough. Don't waste time to perfect things. This is very important. When you're starting out and things aren't mature yet, don't try and make a design perfect before you go ahead. Make it good enough and test it and learn, and then improve it, and test it and learn and improve it. If you obsess about getting something perfect, you won't actually learn the lessons that you need to learn. You might think you're designing the right thing, but once you start testing with customers, you realize I've spent a year designing this thing, but actually it's not what the customer wants. So don't obsess about getting things perfect. Obsess about making progress. Next point, second last point here, is get a good board of directors. So if you're a young startup, a young spin out, or you're an entrepreneur, aspiring entrepreneur, make sure that when you start a company, you get experienced board of directors. Look at your network, everyone you know, try and find people that are willing to be on your board, but get people on your board that have experience with business. Not only will they know a lot of stuff that you don't know, and they can give you guidance, but it also provides objectivity to the board. It helps you to especially when you have many shareholders in the company, to then to be able to go and sit down and say, okay, but let's think about this objectively, not emotionally between the shareholders, but let's listen to someone with some experience. And that authority that person brings to the board and to your company is extremely valuable. So when you do a startup, get experienced board members to help guide you. And then the last point is be willing to do anything in the company, but constantly work on empowering others to do your job and offload your responsibilities, and then grow towards doing the next thing. So the only way in which you can grow as CEO or in any job really is by working to the point where what you're doing now, someone else is doing, so that you can do the next thing. So that doesn't mean be lazy and pass off all your work to other people. It means empower people to do your job so that you can then do the next thing. Be hardworking, grab more things to do, but always focus on transferring your responsibility to others so that you can grow to the next stuff that you need to focus on. And then ultimately, as a CEO, ultimately you get to the point where you have a structure of people in place and you can really lift your head up again and start thinking about the strategy of the company. But you can only get there and start strategically thinking if you pass on your responsibilities to the people around you. And that's it. That's all I have for you guys. I'm open to any questions.
Oh no, thanks a lot, Mike, for sharing like all this information with us. I think like you shared a lot of like insightful things, and then like I'm sure like everybody like that has been listening will taking notes, and then like they will go and then work on those things. So Mike, just a few questions like that I have. I'm not sure if like the other members like they will like to ask you some questions, but have you been to space, if I may ask, and then like, what is your take about like sending like satellite, like they will even like go beyond or like the furthest point like Mars, Jupiter, or other planets? If I may ask that the question, I know it might be.
So I said earlier to you, I'm afraid of heights, so I don't want to go to space. No, I mean, one day it must be incredible being in space and looking down at the Earth. I can only imagine how amazing that feeling must be. But I'm focused on sending stuff to space. I don't want to go there myself for now, maybe one day. But yeah, I mean, space exploration is extremely important. It drives forward new innovation and new technology. Whether we should be sending people to Mars right now, I don't know. Maybe we should be focusing on Earth. But the process of trying to send people to Mars is helping us mature our technology so quickly on Earth. And it's throughout the history, it's always been those big ambitious goals that we as humanity set for ourselves that drives new technology and new innovation. So I think the ambition to go to Mars and beyond and do all of these things is a good thing in essence for the development of mankind and of technology. So yeah, in terms of satellites, sending satellites out there, it's extremely interesting. I mean, the lessons we can learn from space, something you can go Google the James Webb Telescope. The James Webb Telescope is a telescope that we recently built and launched, and it's like behind the moon. It sits behind the moon. It looks to deep space. Just go look at the images that thing is producing. It gives us completely new insights into how the world works, into physics and science. And so, I mean, deep space exploration is really exploring the unknown to humanity, and there's so much to learn there.
Can I ask the question? What makes you to like decide to start a company at the beginning?
That's a very good question. I guess it's to a large extent a personality thing, right? I've always had the personality to, when I see a problem, I am kind of obsessed with trying to solve that problem. When I see a problem, I can't walk away from it. I need to actually go and try and solve the problem. I want to get involved. I can't, if I walk past the conversation, I hear people talking about something and I have an idea that I want to contribute, I really struggle not to actually engage there. inherently my nature is to want to solve problems. And I think generally that's true for all entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are typically not people that are lazy or shy away from problems. They grab them. They want to solve problems. And I think because of that personality trait, when I finished studying and this opportunity was presented and the need was apparent, the technology was kind of there in university, there was a clear need for this in the market, I couldn't help myself but to actually take that road. It's not like I thought, and throughout my school and university career, I didn't ever think I was going to be an entrepreneur. I was studying engineering, right? I didn't study any business related stuff or finance or anything. I studied engineering. So I never thought this was the road I was going to follow. But that opportunity presented itself, and I had a certain mindset to want to solve whatever problem is presented to me, and that led to me taking this road.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So on the floor, so we have like Kuliso Lubimbi. He has raised his hand. So Kuliso, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Loud
Yes.
and clear.
Okay. I just want to know on your company, how's the way the time, working time? Do you work normal like us Monday to Friday, or yeah? I just want to understand, and the team, how many of you? Thanks. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah, we work 8 to 5 Monday to Friday. But our working hours is actually completely flexible. So the actual message to our employees is you need to work the hours and at the location that you need to work to get your job done. So if you're just doing software, you're welcome to work at home if you want. We don't have firm rules about being in the office or working from home. It's flexible. It's like a hybrid system. And there's trust, right? And that's why I mentioned earlier, culture is so important in a company. The culture and the values is so important. I don't feel worried that if my employees are working from home, that whether they're actually working or whether they're productive or not, I trust them completely. So there's flexibility in where you work and also the hours that you work. But of course, with the rule that you need to do whatever is required for your job to be done. So for instance, if you're part of the production team, you can only do production at the facility, and you can only do production while the other people are there and all the machines are running and all that kind of stuff. So then you need to be there during the hours, like the normal office hours. So different members in the team have different hours and working locations based on the jobs that they need to do. In terms of the amount of people, we're about 42 people now, actually exactly 42 now. We're probably hiring another 4 or 5 people this year. So towards 50 people end of the year.
Okay. Thanks. Last one more question. When you hire, what type of people do you need, or qualifications?
Yeah, so for different jobs we need different qualifications, right? So for the production team, we hire engineers. We also hire technicians. So we hire people with diplomas, a diploma, for instance, at CPUT in focusing on engineering, or a B technology, B Tech at CPUT. That's the kind of guys we're hiring for the production team, as well as engineers, like the B-Eng engineer degrees. We hire for the most like control system focused mathematical jobs. It's more people with postgraduate degrees like masters and PhDs. We hire there. Administrative qualification isn't really that important. Financial, we obviously hire like a CA, and we don't need many financial guys. We outsource a lot of that as well. And then in terms of skills, we get applications from all over with people with different skill levels, but the almost the more important thing when we hire someone is their personality and how they will fit our culture. You can have a group of 50 people, and you can have 1 or 2 people with a certain mindset, a bad mindset, a mindset that's not collaborative, that doesn't focus on teamwork, that is a kind of as a toxic mindset, and that can spread in a team. So we are very focused on, so I, as CEO, I interview every person that we hire, and I decide whether they're gonna fit the culture of the team, whether they're gonna work with this team in a successful way and help build the others around them, and not break down. So the actual mindset and culture of the people that we hire is just as important than the technical skills of the people we hire.
Oh no, thanks a lot, Mike. And then like because of time, so maybe we can like just take like one question like that is on the chat, like that is was asked by Buhale, was asking, what is your strategy to drive innovation?
So we had our generation 1 product from 2013, 14 to now that we're selling, and that we're making most of our revenue from. But over the last 2-3 years, we redesigned a generation 2 system, and the generation 2 system is better in every way. We upgraded our system in almost every way. It's now reprogrammable. You can update the software in space, and it's like a lot more mature technology. But also this new generation 2 system allows us to connect external suppliers' parts to our system. And what that allows us to do is now do exactly what we're doing in the small satellite market, and apply that to bigger satellites. So the bigger satellite market is something that is at this point, we're not accessing that at all. And actually in that bigger satellite market, there's not yet someone that's doing what we're doing. So our strategy is to enter that market, to be able to build these bigger control systems for bigger satellites. That will be a completely new market, but then also to scale up our production significantly. So we are growing at about 50% every year. So in a year and a half's time, a bit more than that, we need to be able to build double the amount of stuff that we're building today. So to be able to do that, we need to scale our production system constantly. We need to change our facility constantly, grow our team constantly. But to be able to achieve that growth, we're focusing very much on automation, and automated testing and automated calibration. So we are doing a lot of innovation on the production process as well, to be able to do larger volumes while keeping the costs down.
I know, thanks a lot, Mike. I know, thanks a lot. Yeah.
It was very, very, very good session. Thank you very much.
It's a big pleasure. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. And thanks for arranging this, Sawaka.
Thank you very much, really.
And Zuma.
We're
Bye-bye.
going to close the session. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.